This is Chris Hansen.
Chad doing Rip City Radio here.
It's your favorite basketball player, Tyler Hansbrough.
This is Jamie Hudson.
This is TJ Houshmandzadeh.
And I'm going to let y'all know something.
Duke sucks and Duke will always suck.
You're listening to
It Just Makes Sense.
It Just Makes Sense.
Football is back, and so are we, boys. Listen, this podcast is not about being right. It's about being entertaining, and sometimes right.
There's no such thing as being addicted to gambling when you're single.
There's no one to answer to, yeah.
If you go the direction where you will lose the understanding of people by continuing to play, you better be fucking smart about it. Because you might die next hit. You hear how Peter talks? He's won 3 bets for a total of $65 fucking dollars, and he goes, give my friends some advice so they could level up with me. We're back. Clear eyes.
Full heart!
Can't lose.
Play like a champion! You got a nice little itch that you're using that microphone
I'm
for?
ready for basketball season.
He's got the itch, but no longer for football.
Football sucks.
Miguel would rather us become a Diddy investigative journalism podcast than a football podcast these days.
Did he?
Been wanting to talk about sex trafficking this whole time.
Did he or didn't he?
Did he win or didn't he? This is more about you. I'm trying to make a joke that you don't win bets. All right? There you go.
I know. Miguel's down and out.
Man,
Yeah, fantasy sucks.
Miguel, if you would have asked yourself, this is season 5. We've been doing this for 5 years. If you would have asked yourself in season 1 that Peter would be the best gambler out of the 3 of us in season 5, would you have believed it?
No. But it's also not really a complete fact. I mean, he's won a bet and we haven't at the start of the season.
I mean, you've come out plus money.
I'm at plus money
in
all
the first
3
2 weeks. Yeah.
All 2 weeks, yeah.
So you won bets week 1 and you
And
won
week
bets
2.
week 2.
Yeah, I have.
I mean,
If that doesn't motivate you.
I'm
Yeah,
happy for
you
you,
need to
but
step
I
your
don't
game
think
up.
that makes you like the. First of all, best gambler is also not a compliment.
Yeah,
The bar is low.
Yeah, I don't.
true.
But I'm glad like one of us is winning.
What's your problem? Not like what's your problem in like a confrontational way, but like what do you think is your betting problem right now?
But
When
also,
you
what's
your
your
problem?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
Going too far out?
No. I broke off from my typical routine.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest mistakes I made started in fantasy, and that bled into gambling, because I am now crafting my sports betting.
You're tying it to your fantasy?
Yeah, I'm tying it to my fantasy.
Yeah.
But my fantasy also started off on the wrong foot because I drafted, which is stupid. I should have never listened to anyone because I've been successful since I played fantasy. But I started following someone and based my draft off of that. It's like, oh, you need to pick up certain players because they're going to be the person ahead of them is going to be sitting out for the first 4 weeks. You want this guy instead of just like naturally drafting.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a tough situation because when you find an account that you follow and you decide to take their advice, when it goes well, you feel like the smartest person in the world. But when it doesn't, you feel like an imbecile.
it's dumb because there's really no advantages to it. If you just followed your gut, you can pat yourself on the back and it's nobody helped you.
Yeah.
But it's like if you did well, even following an account, it's like, well, yeah, you just followed some idiot's advice.
Who has more?
There's not
free
really
time on their
a
hands,
win-win.
And even if you draft on your own accord and it doesn't go well, at least you're like, I'm going down with the ship. Like,
Yeah, like it's always been up to me. Like I've been playing fantasy football since 2017, and like 2 leagues here and there. I've won 6 fantasy championships, and somehow I just started listening to someone and changed my entire strategy. And then I look into like going into week 2, and I'm like, oh, I really need like big weeks from Cooper Kupp and Pacheco. So that became my bet. And now those two are out for several weeks.
Yeah, but Pacheco out for a minimum, it sounds like, of 6 to 8 weeks, which is no bueno. I believe I've got him in the Jimmy's league, which not going so hot for me at the moment.
Yeah,
but we'll reassess and
I think
reconvene.
I'm gonna scrap everything and start from scratch. There's the man.
Who are we trying to get in? Is there someone else?
No. Oh, no. We're just trying to make sure it's recording.
The pastor.
Yeah. We've got your whole family waiting. We've got to talk to you.
It's a gambling intervention, Walsh.
Yeah, dude, I'm not married anymore, man, so it doesn't matter.
There's no such thing as being addicted to gambling when you're single.
There's no one to answer to, yeah. Like, unless my daughter calls it, she's 7, but
she doesn't know what the fuck's going on. Who cares?
hey,
She's like, Dad, add another leg to this parlay.
there's no problem. I've been paying my taxes on the W2Gs from DraftKings for the last 4 years, so we're in the black.
There we go.
Yeah. Even last year with like not a great year for me on teasers, I still won my future bets, and I took the Chiefs at plus 330 to win the AFC in week 12, and they did. And then I had the future bet with the Cowboys and the Eagles parlay to make the playoffs. So, and this year I did the Lions and the Packers. So we'll see.
Was that after the Chiefs had lost like 3 in a row or something like that? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I think the Packers was great. And then, are you worried that Jordan Love went down?
I was really worried when Love went down. I thought I was in big trouble. I thought maybe they go get, trade for another quarterback and they'd have a chance, because the NFC, in my opinion, is a lot weaker. And they're loaded. I mean, the Packers are loaded with weapons all around the quarterback. So, but I mean, he's supposed to come back in week 3 or 4. They'll be fine. They'll probably lose at Tennessee, I imagine. But they're a wild card team, in my opinion. And the Lions losing to Tampa was a little surprising, but I still think they're going to win the division, I would imagine.
Will you let us introduce you for?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Pleased to welcome in once again the Wolf of Wall Street, RJ James. Hello.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
No, in all joking aside, we do appreciate you. I feel like I'm closer to you now, and I still can't get you into the studio. What's up with that?
You are closer, and the studio you guys have that thing dialed. So I definitely need to come by with some beers and that setup. I will be there this season. That is a promise. I will be there this season. Yeah.
All right. We'll hold you to it.
Yeah, we'll
we'll send a limo your way.
Maybe not, but how about an Uber?
Let's keep the winning rolling here.
Yeah. We need to win.
Right before this, we were having a little mope session for Juan Magoo over here because he has not had any good luck. And it's probably because we went 2 weeks into the season and haven't spoken to you yet.
I needed this. That's why you were being forced to come here.
He needs some herbs to burn or some sort of seance.
Yeah.
We need the Walsh adjustment.
No bets won. Fantasy's going bad. I need to get baptized.
This is therapy.
Yeah.
Well, so far it's been a good start to the year for me with the teasers. I think I'm 3-0 now on the monster teasers. I just had Philly plus 6.5. I was a little concerned there for a second, but that rolled in. So yeah, and really so far through 2 weeks, everything's come in fairly, I guess, easily on the monsters, and definitely staying, like last year I told you guys, staying away from the road favorites. I just had a real issue with that last year. I was not catching any of those games. I think the home team in the NFL is just a huge advantage. I mean, I know you didn't see it tonight, but if you were to give the Eagles some points like I did, it was really never in jeopardy. And so I just think home field's worth a significant amount.
I thought that with Dallas yesterday.
Yeah.
Well,
and I was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing about Dallas. Are they really a team? You got to look at teams. Can you trust them? Like, do you think they're a consistent team in the NFL? The answer is no, right? Yes, during the regular season they can do some things, but look how New Orleans played week 1. they've got a well-balanced team, the Saints. Okay, so they're a little bit they're dangerous, and Dallas is just a team you don't ever really want to bet week in and week out because they're that Jekyll and Hyde ball club, so there's not consistency there.
And I think also on the opposite end of the ball is because I think for all of us going into the season, the Saints were on nobody's mind. Like nobody was thinking of them.
At least on this couch.
Yeah, that's for sure. Is this kind of strike of lightning for them in these first 2 weeks, or do we need to put the Saints on the radar moving forward?
I think you can put the Saints on the radar. Again, they play Philly this coming week, right? So that's going to be a big one. That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't seen their defense fully, right? I do think offensively the Saints can play with a lot of teams. It's going to be interesting to see how they play against Philly, but Philly's probably going to be down A.J. Brown again, which tonight was a huge loss for them. I think that showed. Yeah. But I kind of expect the Saints to maybe win and get to 3-0. And I'm going to watch that game and just kind of see what their defense is all about. But I think Carr's, sufficient. Kamara's running the ball well. They've got weapons on the outside. They're pretty well balanced, and they have a really good coach. So I guess my answer to that is let's see, right? It's a little early to say that they're the real deal. I think the Vikings also 2-0. It's a little early, okay?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you're not going to get like Alvin Kamara scoring 4 touchdowns week in and week out. But I mean, like what you've seen from the Saints so far, and I don't know if this actually carried through the end of that game, but there was a stat midway through the third quarter that was like they've scored on literally every possession, whether it be field goal or touchdown, the entire season the Saints have. And that's super impressive.
I'm pretty sure the statistic is every drive that Derek Carr has started has ended in points.
Yeah, that's wild.
And they're like the only team in the last, several decades to score 45 or more points in their, starting 2 games or something crazy like that. Yeah. So definitely doing real well.
Gotcha. Yes. I mean, hey, putting up the amount of points they put up against Dallas, let's face it, Dallas does have a pretty good defense. That was really surprising, but it all goes back to that Jekyll and Hyde Dallas team. You just never know what you're going to get. And who did the Saints beat week 1? Was that Carolina?
Yeah.
No, they beat the Falcons.
Yeah.
No, the Falcons lost to Pittsburgh week 1. So I think it was Carolina.
It was Carolina.
Was it Carolina?
Yeah. So Carolina,
not a huge surprise.
Yeah, Carolina, I just never count. So that we have one week of sample size against a team that is very inconsistent in Dallas. So let's see what the Saints can do. But yes, I think they have a promising team. I think Minnesota being 2-0 is surprising, and I'm a huge Vikings fan. I was hopeful.
How long's Jefferson out for?
We don't know yet. I think it's just like a contusion, so it's not even that bad. But I expect him to play this weekend. But they're playing the Texans, who are really tough. So, everybody wants to make these predictions after 2 weeks. It's just let's slow down. Let's let the season play out, because we all know that even through 4 weeks, what we see never, someone could be 4-0 and then completely miss the playoffs and tank. It's happened many times. So remember when Arizona a couple of years ago was like 8-1, and then they lost like 7 of their last 8 or whatever.
Look at the Steelers a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure they started 10-0, and then just absolutely just crash landed, barely made it into the playoffs, and then lost to the Browns in the first round.
Yes. Good dude. Yeah. Good memory.
Yeah,
I know. For a man who died twice, it's pretty wild that you have such a good memory.
Couple strokes, no problem.
No problem. I got it.
I mean, this guy should be cashing quite a few bets with that kind of knowledge. Let's go.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
You'd think. But I another question I had for you, something I've noticed over these first 2 weeks, is the passing game across the NFL seems to be not great. I think we're used to in the NFL to having these high octane, high scoring, high passing teams, is this just more of a, hey, we're going into a season where a lot of these guys didn't play preseason and everybody's kind of adjusting and growing and that's all it is? We'll see it kind of get back to normal. Or is the NFL kind of, making a change to kind of back to that hard knocks, grit and grind football of, let's establish the run game and then we'll build on top of it. What's your thought on that?
I think there is more going towards the run game, right? Like try to pound the ball a little bit, work the play action. You're not, first of all, the reason why you're not seeing complete aerial assaults like we've seen in years past is I think the Kansas City Chiefs, they're like the Golden State Warriors, right? Like where everybody kind of had to change their defense. The Chiefs were scoring so many points 4 or 5 years ago. Everyone switched and went to a cover 2 and tried to make Mahomes, dink and dunk his way down the field rather than get those huge chunk plays. And it caused a lot of frustration for them. And that's why they were losing games because he kept trying to force. He wanted that flashy play. I just think you're seeing more and more of that every Sunday where they're trying to take away the pass first, and that's allowing more running. Where in the 80s, 90s, you're looking at a league that was more run first. And I think that opened up the pass as the game evolved a little bit. So I think as the season progresses, you're going to see guys, put up some big numbers through the air, but you're not seeing a ton of 300+ yard passers through 2 weeks. So
I know there's only been a handful, and especially with kind of the vibe around running backs last year of like contract agreements and what's their value. I feel like so many running backs got these new contracts this offseason, and you're really seeing the fruits of that coming into this year, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look at Joe Burrow, for instance, right? I drafted him in fantasy. I told a couple of my buddies to draft him. They were panicking because he hasn't put up huge numbers yet. He had a great game at Kansas City. I mean, he did what he needed to do to win, put up 250 through the air, but you're not seeing the staggering 350 to 400 yard games that we've been accustomed to from some of the top, 3 or 4 guys in the league, Josh Allen included, right? He's doing what it takes to win. They've looked good, but he's not putting up staggering numbers. I think Kyler Murray right now is putting up the most yards or towards the top.
I know. Could you have seen that coming? That look at all the quarterbacks that got paid in the offseason.
Right.
And then look at the quarterbacks that are leading the league as of week 2. It's Carr. It's Darnold. It's Kyler. Fuck it, Darnold. Like Darnold has like some of the best stats through week 2.
Yeah.
So does Derek Carr. So does Kyler Murray. We're not hearing about Lamar. We're not hearing about Mahomes. Herbert is 2-0.
First time since 2012.
But he's not putting up great stats. Right. Allen's not putting up great stats. It's like it's ass backwards. I feel like I'm in the fucking Twilight Zone.
Right. No, it's interesting. But again, small sample size for the season. Yeah. Let's let things play out a little bit. But yeah, you're not seeing those gaudy numbers early on. And there's some teams, there's some surprising 2-0 teams. There's some very surprising 0-2 teams like Baltimore. Where you look at this week, that's week 3 is huge. And there's some matchups that are really interesting, like Baltimore going to Dallas. That's a huge game because Baltimore could be staring 0-3 right in the face. And they're in a really competitive division. And if Pittsburgh wins and gets to 3-0, and you've got the Bengals and the Browns in there, you're in
that, right?
Yeah, you're in big trouble, right? So that's a really intriguing game. And Dallas is coming off that embarrassment. Usually they bounce back and play quite a bit better after they lose like that. So that's a really interesting game. Kansas City, Atlanta is going to be interesting because Atlanta, they look good tonight. Their defense played a lot better. But again, A.J. Brown was out for the Eagles. And I really felt like Kansas City should have lost to Cincinnati. It seemed like the Bengals had that one and let it go. And then you must be thrilled with your Browns getting that W because I don't think a lot of people saw them going in and beating the Jags.
Yeah, I didn't. That's for sure.
No one did.
And they're doing it without Amari Cooper contributing.
Yeah.
Like, how is Deshaun Watson not looking for him?
Yeah, it's going into any of these Browns games, you have kind of in your head a like play plan or a game plan, excuse me, that this is how we could win this game, and kind of none of that shook out in the Jaguars game, but they get the win. I'm not trying to get too high on it because I don't think that Jacksonville is going to be as good as some people thought coming into this
Right.
season. But a win's a win. I'll take it, regardless of the numerous allegations that continue to pour in for our boy Deshaun. We're focused on next week.
Yeah, I mean, just think about like week to week. You had, does Deshaun Watson even want to play football anymore?
Yeah.
To, you know,
Which good on him for, at least, taking a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but I need Amari Cooper to get some points. Maybe a backup would be better.
That's fantasy talking.
and so you had mentioned the Ravens 0-2 in that game versus the Cowboys. Lamar Jackson, the first reigning MVP to start 0-2 since 2002, so not so good there for the Ravens. But I am curious. We played this game last week, and I'm wondering if we can do this case study with you. We played the game. Who is good is good. Who is good?
Who looked good and is
Oh, right.
good?
Yeah, thank you.
Who looks good and is bad? Who's bad and looks good? And who's bad and is bad?
Right. And obviously, like, we've got, like, the low-hanging fruit of who's bad is like, the Panthers and such.
Just name, like, one team for each category.
Yeah, one for each category.
Okay, so who's bad is that's bad is, let's just say Carolina, right? I think they're the worst team
Easy.
in football.
So easy.
Yeah, really, really easy. Okay, what's the next guy? Run me through
Who's
them.
bad?
Who looks
bad but is good?
is good.
Who looks
Probably the
bad?
Ravens.
Yeah, I'd have to say Baltimore just because they're sitting at 0-2. But if we're coming off of just like looking at week 2, I thought Dallas getting handled like that was the most. They looked worse than anybody.
Okay,
Yes.
so you had the Ravens and the Cowboys, teams that look bad are good. So now
Right.
we have teams that
Look good
are
are bad.
Okay, teams that I think Pittsburgh Steelers, guys, and let me tell you why. They are a team that wins with defense. Their offense is just not that impressive to me. I just feel like I don't know what their schedule looks like, but teams are going to get on top of them and put them behind, and then we'll see what Fields and the boys can do. But I just don't see a lot of weapons on that team outside of Pickens and maybe some, read option run game. But I just don't think they're that. I just don't see them as being there. Although Tomlin always seems to get them in, right? Also Minnesota. I'm a diehard Vikings fan. Unless I see the Vikings sitting at like 10-4 and totally shocking me, I don't see Sam Darnold being a guy that's going to get them into the playoffs. I know he's playing hot right now, but remember, he had streaks in New York where he played really well. He had a couple really good games in Carolina where he beat some teams that he shouldn't have. And then everyone, said, oh, Sam Darnold, threw for 330 yards, whatever. And then the next game he'd go out and throw 4 picks. And so I just don't think Minnesota is very good. Their defense is not very good. They don't generate much of a pass rush. They have to blitz a lot to get home. And I think Houston could give them a lot of problems this week. So let's talk again after they play a couple more games.
Who was their aerospace engineer quarterback last year? Who
The bald guy?
Yeah, the alopecia guy.
Well, I know they had Nick Mullins at one point.
Josh Dobbs.
Dobbs. Sorry, Dobbs.
Yeah,
yes.
Dobbs. He came on super fast at the beginning of the season, and then that was a
Well, I'll tell you why.
Flash in the pan before.
Again, Minnesota, great offensive line. Good pieces around for Dobbs, particularly. You had Jefferson, you had Addison, you had Hawkinson, you had a good run game. So you have a great offensive line. They really do have a good offensive line. So you're not asked to do a whole lot. Just disperse the ball, get rid of it, get it to people on time. Jefferson's probably the best receiver in the game. But that defense is just really, really poor. So I expect Minnesota to lose this week and then to really start sliding because they're going to have to start playing like the Lions, who they've never really done well against. They're going to have to play the Packers with Love coming back, most likely. So, we'll see where Minnesota is in week 6, but I think they're a team right now that looks good, but is really, really bad. Not bad, but, like a bad team. They're not going to make the playoffs.
All right. So who's good?
Well,
who looks good and is good?
And don't go chalk.
Yeah, and real quick, before we go on to that, I noticed when you were talking about the Steelers, you said Fields and the boys. Are you saying that you think that Justin Fields is going to continue to start for that team and that's their best hope?
I do. I've always kind of liked Fields' game. I think he's freakishly athletic. I think he's a load when he gets running. I think he's pretty fast. I think he's got a good arm. He struggles to read defenses at times. But for what they want to do and what they need in a quarterback, he can do it. He can move the chains slowly. He adds a real dimension with the read option, with what was it, Jalen Warren or whatever. And yeah, so he's a pretty dynamic running back. I just don't see Russell Wilson coming in and giving them any kind of scrambling ability, which you really need when their offense breaks down a little bit. Fields can run, right? So teams are having to spy him, and that opens up some scramble plays, and he can make some throws on plays that break down. I don't think Russ can do that. So yeah.
Do you think if Fields had the current Chicago roster, because I've always said that I felt like he got hosed in Chicago.
I think they
should have kept him. You think if he has Caleb Williams' roster, you think they'd be doing better?
I absolutely do. Absolutely. I mean, look at the talent around Williams. Yes, Williams is a rookie, and it's hard to say he does look pretty shitty right now, but we'll see what happens.
Like it's college. I mean, he is scrambling 12 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and then he's chucking it like he's still at USC.
I'm with you, dude. I'm a Fields guy. I thought he got hosed in Chicago. I like his game, and I think the Bears made a big mistake letting him go and taking Williams. But it's hard to say that and have people believe it because all the hype that Williams had coming in, and he is so new, right? And everyone's going to make excuses for him until he improves. But watch Fields in Pittsburgh. I don't think he's going to relinquish that job. I really don't.
Yeah, like adding Russ into the rotation at this point seems that it would just complicate matters.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't need him to perform well, or you don't need him to go out and do well and then create some sort of weird quarterback.
I mean, yeah,
issue.
It's the NFL. We're here to win. If you've got a winning quarterback, why move on from that?
Train, yeah, for sure. So, okay, with the Chicago Bears, what category do they fall under that we have laid out?
So
look bad, are bad.
They won that first game. That was all defense and special teams. So they still haven't really looked good. I'm gonna say Bears are just a defensively they're a good team. So actually, I think defensively they're better than good. They're not elite, but they're better than good. They're outstanding. And their offense has weapons, but I don't think Williams is going to be able to put them in a position to win enough games to be that wild card team like a lot of people think. So I'm going to say good team that's going to end up bad. That's what I think about the Chicago Bears.
And the last one is good team that is good, and you can't say the Chiefs.
Good team that is good. This is going to shock you guys because they're 0-2. I really believe that. I really, really believe in this team.
Let me guess. You're going to say the Packers.
Nope. I'm going to say the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay?
Okay.
What I saw from them at Kansas City was really impressive. I thought defensively they were playing really well. I mean, my God, Burrow gets sacked. They pick up a fumble and run into the house, right? And then they had some other wacky turnover, but they totally shut down Mahomes. Wait till they get T. Higgins back. He's going to add in. I mean, that's such a big dimension to their offense. Joe Burrow, in my opinion, right next to Mahomes is the best. So there's Patrick Mahomes. In my opinion, there's Joe Burrow right behind him, and then there's Josh Allen. I think when Joe Burrow is firing on all cylinders, the Cincinnati Bengal offense with Chase and Higgins is elite. And I think their defense is good. So that is an 0-2 team. And it's going to be right here on video. They will make the playoffs. They will win their division. and they will rematch the Chiefs in the conference finals and go to the Super Bowl. They will beat Kansas City in the playoffs.
Damn.
Green Bay, Cincinnati, or Detroit, Cincinnati will be the Super Bowl this year.
Wow.
I believe in the Bengals. We do
Yeah.
also have them to win the division,
Yeah.
right?
You do? Oh, okay. You guys?
Yeah.
No, I think as a group, I think we have the Ravens.
Oh, okay.
I think I took the Bengals
Yeah, as a
on
group,
my
we have
own
the Ravens.
division winner.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, everybody's throwing them on, everybody's kind of throwing them out right now at 0-2, but Mike, it's, how hard it is to go in and beat Kansas City. I mean, I know Baltimore almost did it, but Cincinnati even had them more by the throat and let that one get away. So, and they were missing T. Higgins, one of the top, 8-10 receivers in the league. So keep an eye on them. Just remember, Bengals. When I'm back on the show, hopefully you guys have me back in mid-season or so, and we'll see how they're doing.
Yeah, after 4 years in a row, we're actually questioning whether we want you anymore. No,
Hey.
so one team that's kind of like caught a twinkle in my eye this year, which I want to get your opinion on, is the Rams. I don't, obviously with the injury to Cup, that changes things.
And Puka is
And-
back.
Yeah, Puka's out.
Oh, he's hurt. He's out.
But he should be back here soon, as far as I have seen.
Week 5, I think.
But I feel like, I don't know, there's something about the Rams this year that has caught my eye. Am I just stupid, or is there something there?
I think the Rams caught your eye in week 1, and I don't think they'll catch it again. I think if they had Nakua and they had Cup, and Kyron Williams is a hell of a running back, they are dangerous. Problem is, Nakua is out till at least week 5. Cup's now out multiple weeks, they're saying. So, and really he's their leader on the team outside of Stafford. So no, I think the Rams, and they're in a tough time. I mean, Seattle's looking good. The Niners are gonna beat them. So yeah, they're in trouble, man. They're not gonna make the playoffs. But I get what you're saying. Like, yes, there's potential there. It's just not gonna happen for them this year. Not with those injuries.
Does the term 50-footer mean anything to you guys, or is that just a me thing?
50-foot.
What?
No. So when you think that someone is hot from 50 feet, but then you get up close to them, and you're like, "Ooh, that girl is
Oh, yeah.
rough."
Okay.
I never called that that's a stewed fish.
A stewed.
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know, but it
what
sounds
what is
funnier
a stewed fish?
Well, I've always referred to like a stewed fish, where like if
It looks big when you're reeling it in, but
No,
once
like-
it's in the net.
if you're looking from far away, you're like, oh, that girl's a 10. But if you do this and you like focus in, then you see that she's really not.
Okay,
So, with all of those analogies in mind,
that's the Rams.
is that the Rams? And if we have a 50-footer, we have a stewed fish. Who is your other stewed fish? Who's hot? And when you get up close, you go, ooh.
I'm gonna say
That's
okay.
right.
I'm gonna say the Seahawks. I'm just not. They look flashy. They look okay now, or they look good. But I think when you really get in and examine them halfway through the season, they're really gonna fade because I don't think their defense is very good. And I call that kind of a Monet. Like the painter Monet. Like the pictures look good from far,
I've
but
heard
far
of
from good from far, far from good. That's also a good one. That's the Seahawks. Okay, so 2-0, but they're not that great. Now I am going to the Niners Seattle game next month, so I hope Seattle's 3-1 when they play it because that will make it more fun. Or 4-1, I guess, when they play. So that should be a fun game. But I would put them in that category, Pete. What you just said.
Got you. It is such an interesting. I mean, obviously with preseason and how impact players are not playing as often, it does feel like this year. It feels like there is a surplus of long-term injuries to some very high-impact players. Christian McCaffrey, you've got Cooper Kupp, you've got Pacheco, you've got Tua, who's not able to throw the ball to Jalen Waddle or to Tyreek Hill. And I wonder, when you think about your betting now, how all of these injuries play a factor into your analysis.
A huge. I mean, every week I'm looking at injuries. I'm looking at, who potentially could be out because you can't just go, you can't just bet the games based on what happened the previous week, make the early wager for the following week without seeing how the injuries develop through the week. I mean, guys being out, if Cooper Kupp's out, not a lot of some people won't even know. They'll be like, "Oh, let's go take the Rams against the Niners and hope they can cover the 7.5 or 8.5 or whatever." But if you really follow it and you're like, okay, he's out, that's a huge loss. You already know Nakua's out. That's going to change everything for them. I mean, that takes them from a potential wild card team to, possibly through 3 weeks, 4 weeks being completely out of it, in my opinion. So yeah, injuries are huge. I don't think the McCaffrey injury it's bad for fantasy owners, but I don't think it's devastating for the Niners right now because the kid that's backing him up is doing a good enough job for them to be winning games. The reality with them is their defense is not what it used to be. I mean, Minnesota was able to move the ball on them. So that could be a problem for the 49ers. But just getting back to your question, yeah, injuries are huge. Injuries are going to make and break this entire year. I mean, look at Jordan Love, him going down. They were able to weather the storm week 2 with Willis. I think Willis is a bad quarterback. So they're going to have some problems if he doesn't come back sooner rather than later. And it's going to be who can stay healthy. Who's going to stay healthy most of the year? And hopefully teams like that I like, I love, like I said, Cincinnati and the AFC. Hopefully they can stay healthy. Baltimore, they're going to be right there if they can stay healthy. But it's going to be week to week. It's going to be hit or miss. So, yes, injuries are critical.
I want to go back to the point you made with the Niners. So the defense, I agree. Because McCaffrey seems like that's more of a safe play, right?
Yes.
Jordan Mason's doing well enough.
Yes.
We don't need him. They're so loaded on offense that it doesn't matter.
Right.
But
Debo's also hurt, but yeah.
That defense has underachieved within the first 2 weeks. But it's the same roster. What do you think is happening?
It is the same roster, but some guys get older, some guys get more worn down. You're not seeing Bosa of yesteryear, who was completely dominating. He's still an amazing D end, right? Top 3. But he's not drawing so much double teams that it's freeing everybody up. They don't have the interior, defensive linemen that they used to. And the back end's not that great. I mean,
you think like Fred Warner's lost a step, Ward's lost a step?
Fred Warner's great, but they can be thrown on. Like when Darnold had time, he was completing a lot of balls against them. And that was kind of what I told people coming into the season. I said, San Francisco's defense is not what it used to be, and their window's closing. So I don't think they'll I don't think they'll win the NFC this year. I think you're going to see the Lions or the Packers pass them, and I think their window is going to be closed. So I'm also, I hate the Niners. So I'm very biased. Like if there's a team in the league I can't stand, there's the Green Bay Packers because I'm a diehard Vikings fan. I do have them in my future bet, so I have a little more love for them this year. But it's the 49ers. I don't like them. You'll never find me really saying anything nice about them. Yes, we all know they're the most talented team, but just keep an eye on that defense. It's gonna struggle this year.
So I'm going to bring up another analogy, and I hope it makes sense. When Will Smith is teaching Kevin James how to dance, and he's in Hitch, the movie Hitch, and he's telling him to like kind of dance in his pocket type of a deal. When you're betting and all the things that we've talked about, where are you dancing in your pocket as it relates to bets right now?
You really reach for that Hitch analogy there. Wow.
Where am I trying to find?
We're getting $1,000 bonus if we mention Hitch. So there we go.
Yeah. Okay. Where are you? You're dancing in your pocket. You're not doing the chicken birds. Like where are you with all of the things that we've talked about?
Catch it 7 p.m. on TBS. We're really getting paid.
What's your safe spot?
Okay, so my philosophy and what I feel good about so far this year in betting is I like taking home teams and giving them points. That's the adjustment I made. That's kind of my bread and butter so far, and it's working out for me. Not doing the road favorites, that are heavily favored, giving them just a few points because teams are getting ambushed in the league. There's a lot more parity. So you'll see a lot of my teasers that will either be overs just in the game, just getting to certain points, or taking the home team. 4.5 is always my number. If I can give a home team that's pretty good, like 4.5 or more, you'll see that a lot on my monster teasers. I'm staying away from the heavy road favorites. So that's my hitch analogy. That's where I'm dancing in my pocket right there. Home teams.
They don't need no pizza there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. A couple of weeks, like I thought that the Bucks were such a great value play just as a money line. I think I put like $10 or $20 just on the Bucks because it was like they were at like plus 295. I feel like that against the Lions, and I was like, you're dumb not to take just to throw that out there as the possibility.
What was the line? 8 in that game?
It was something. Yeah, it was more than a touchdown, and I just go like
that's Detroit had not showed through, like, especially against the Rams, going into overtime with them. That line was so skewed. I think it should have been, if I would have made that line, it would have been like Lions -3 or -3.5.
Right, you just get like the classic home.
Yeah, because I think
I'll say though, week to week aside, this pod is big Bucks fan.
Oh, okay.
We took them as division winners. We're believers. We're believers in the Bucks.
We are believers.
I think they're a good team. I think Mayfield's good. They've got a lot of weapons on offense and pretty good defense. I mean, Bowles is a defensive guy. So, yeah, I think it's going to be between them and the Saints if the Saints can keep playing the way they are. And we'll see what Atlanta can do. But I don't expect Atlanta to beat Kansas City on Sunday night. So they're going to be 1-2, and they're going to have an uphill battle from there.
With so many people are high on the Falcons this year. We talked about like the air raid not really being a thing, but like the way that the Falcons moved the ball down the field in that final drive against the Eagles on Monday Night Football, it was like felt
Kirk prime time.
Kirk
prime time. What happened?
All the time in the world to be able to like lead that drive down.
Well, they were in a cover 2. They were in like a deep cover 2 shell, trying not to get beat deep, and that just allows, I mean, you guys know this, that allows those like intermediate out routes all day down the field. It's just the dumbest defense ever.
So the Falcons in your mind this year, how do you play a team like that seems to have a lot of eyeballs and against the division that they're playing and all that stuff, right?
I see the Falcons as a really talented team, but I don't know. I don't believe the team that they have. They're really lucky to have won tonight. Let's be honest. I mean, that was Saquon catches that ball, it's over. They run the ball there and burn another 40 seconds. The game's over. So they caught a huge break. They're going to lose to Kansas City, and I don't think Kirk is like still doesn't look right to me, and I think you're going to see them. They'll miss the wild card. If whoever wins that division is going to get in. Whoever doesn't, the other teams that don't win it are going to be out. Because I don't think you're going to see the same type of. You know what, guys? I think the Bucks could win that division. I think I really do. And then I think you're going to see the Saints come back down to earth a little bit because I don't think their defense is that good. And I think you're going to see Atlanta struggle. I think you're going to see them struggle like they did in week 1 against Pittsburgh. And for most of the night tonight, they struggled. They couldn't score in the red zone. And I don't think the Eagles' defense is all that great. They have a lot of big guys on their D-line, but their pass rush sucks.
Are you getting that same feeling? Or I don't know if it's just me, but like kind of, I'm not wishing for this, but are you kind of just waiting for Kirk to go down? Like there's like that cloud, like, at any point, this guy could go down. Atlanta's done.
Yeah, I think there's that cloud. I think he may not last through the season. He's not looking really comfortable in the pocket when he has to move. I think you're going to see more teams blitz him, like Pittsburgh did. For some reason, the Eagles didn't tonight. But I think they have an amazing running back. I'm not super sold on their receivers. I mean, London's good, but they don't have a lot outside him. So, I'm not sold on the Falcons. Let's see how they play against Kansas City, but I'd be shocked if they won that game.
When you are, like, obviously, and I know that you bet more than just monster teasers. But we have one of the reasons why our good friend Juan Magoo over here is not doing so well in his betting. He's tying his fantasy rosters to some of his bets.
Yeah, bad decision. We've established that tonight. No longer doing that.
And so when we think about like unemotional betting, and we all know that you're also a big Vikings fan as well. What is your advice to people like Juan Magoo, to you who is very much?
You hear how Peter talks? He's won 3 bets for a total of $65 fucking dollars, and he goes, "Give my friends some advice so they could level up with me." $60 richer off of a $10 bet.
Up on the year, I'm
He's
feeling
like,
good. Things will come around.
Yeah, you heard him earlier. He said, when you're placing a $10 or $20 bet on XYZ,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what Walsh is doing.
I know my units are far different than your units, but yes. What is your advice about managing all of that?
Emotion with your bet, like with tying it into your fantasy. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a little different when you look at what someone's unit may be. Okay, so I think it's different when you factor in the emotional thing. I'm probably, betting quite a bit more than the average bettor would on the NFL. So I really try to take emotion out of it. Now, if I go to a casino or like a Reno guys trip and I'm betting college and I really don't know much about the teams, I will bet the team that I like or that I'm going to root for just for fun, where you tie the emotion into it, because it makes it more fun. But if you want to win and your goal is to try to make some money, you've got to like try to suppress the emotional play as much as possible. I mean, I've bet against the Vikings quite a bit and had a lot of success doing it. And if I had tied my emotions in, I would have lost those bets. However, I did take them 2 years ago to get over 8.5 wins. The year that they won, you remember that year that Jefferson caught that miracle pass against Buffalo?
Yep.
Yeah.
So and they got to like 13 wins or whatever. That was incredible. That's the most fun I've ever had betting on football, because there was that emotional piece to it. To answer your question, no, don't do it. You'll have a lot better success.
Are you saying that when you take emotion out of it, that you are like betting against who you would normally root for, or you just completely wipe them out? And
I usually wipe them out. That's what I like to do to start. But if I'm struggling to find a certain amount of games that I love, I will bet against the teams that I root for. I'll bet against the Bengals. I'll bet against the Vikings, but it's only because I feel really, really good about the team that they're playing and the matchups. But I try not to, because it does take away a little bit of the fun. And watching the games is fun for me too. But my advice is don't get caught up in your fantasy players and betting on the teams that they're on to try to get like that. Yes, that double shot of was not the word. The adrenaline's not the word, but of satisfaction. Yeah, bad idea. So
noted. Now take the emotion out of it. Does Oregon win the Natty?
Does Oregon win the Natty? No, because they cannot beat Texas, and they cannot. I know Georgia just played a not very good game, but I don't see them beating Georgia. I don't even see them being the likes of an Alabama. I think there's just too much speed on those teams. But Texas right now, to me, looks like the favorite. I do think the Ducks are obviously a playoff team, make a lot of noise, potentially get to the Natty, but I don't see them winning it. As much as I'd love to see them do it. I just don't see it happening.
And real quick, because I want to get into college football a little bit deeper with you, but I do think it's funny. Like I said earlier, we've had Walsh on the show for 4 or 5 years now, and every year we ask him that question about emotional betting and what do you recommend, and he gives us pretty much the same answer every time. We learn nothing from it.
Goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah,
True.
fuck that.
But the thing is that he also will dangle a little Vikings bet here and there. He's not.
Yeah, but they win.
You know why, Walsh? Like, the key word is fun. So our units don't match up. So when I'm placing a $5 parlay, I'll build it to 25 legs because I'm focusing on the word fun.
And listen, that's not to say, look, I mean, whatever your amount is, whatever your unit is, whatever you want to bet, it's still it's all fun. But I particularly like with my monsters, I'm doing quite a bit more than somebody would maybe just on single games. And so, I really try to like take all of that aspect out and think clearly about, the matchups and the time that I put in to look at the games and really figure out how I think they're going to go in my head. And you can't factor in like, oh, the Vikings, I really want them to win. This would be so great if they won. I could call my dad afterwards and talk about the game and I cash my bet. You can't do that. That leads to losing. And for me, at the end of the day, it's trying to win some money. I mean, it's all entertainment. It's not like this is investment purposes. However, I am betting enough to where, I want to win. So.
But would it be good advice that if you're having to report your gambling numbers to the tax lady in April, that maybe you should start taking it a little more serious?
Yes. That would be good advice. Yep.
Before we get into college and talk about Oregon, Colorado, and the like, we've talked about how you're 3-0 on the year. I am also up. Suck it. I am curious if you have like a DraftKings or similar account in which you would like to tell us a bet that seemed good but was super bad. And if they're, or if, because I don't know like how much you're betting outside of your monster teasers or anything like that. I am curious if there's one recently that did not go.
There's a bet that I made. Yes, that's a great question. There's a bet that I made the other night So what was that? When did the Dolphins play against
Thursday night
Bills? Okay, so looked at that game, pure entertainment play. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a prop bet on this game, small, but just to keep me interested and to root for something. Shouldn't have done it because I thought about this while I pressed the button. I was like, I'm going to take Tua over 32.5 pass attempts because I thought that the Bills were going to come in and play really, really well. I thought they'd score on the Dolphins. They did. I thought they'd score over 25 points. They did. That was going to lead to Tua having to air it out, which he was going to have to. That was going to walk in. Although when I pressed the button, click, submit wager, I thought he is fragile. He could take a pop and that, get thrown down and he'll be out of the game because of his concussions. So that was a bet that I made that was, in hindsight, a really, really bad bet because when you bet a prop, you have to think of durability of the quarterback, right? Because that's your biggest factor outside of just trying to win the bet in the game flow is can they stay in there? Is this person fragile? Do they take, what's their durability like? How many games have they missed? Well, we all know Tua is a smack away from, coming out of the game. So as soon as I saw him run, literally as he was doing it, it felt like it was in slow motion because I was like, is he going to slide? He certainly didn't. So, and it didn't even look like that bad of a hit. So as soon as he went down, I was like, okay, bet's over. But that was a bad bet that I made. But again, that was more entertainment related. Like I just wanted to take a fun. I like quarterback props for and that
they should have refunded
really
that because that was a collision.
Yeah, they don't though. See, that's the juice the house has is they have that in their back pocket. The injury, right? So,
I had two bets from this past weekend which did not go so well for me. One, I was the emotion side of things. I saw good favorable odds on the Cowboys, and the Cowboys had just scored to put it back to within 2 scores, and I'm like, maybe they catch something. And I think it was like right at the end of the first half or something like that, and I was like, second half, well, let's play for that, and then they ended up losing 44-19, so that was not a good live bet. My hedge of the weekend, which was not so good, was I had Ladd McConkey for the Chargers as well as Joshua Palmer. to both score anytime touchdowns, both at like plus 260 to plus 300. And I go, if one of them scores, I'm coming out above, positive money either way. And then Quentin Johnston scores both touchdowns for the Chargers in that game. So
that's our best better for you.
Receiver 3 on that one. So
this is our sharp here.
That's so funny. And Quentin Johnson, speaking of him, I told my buddy to pick him up in fantasy in the last round, or it was like maybe the 14th, because with the loss of Allen and Williams, I figured he could have a breakout year. So we'll see what he does, but that's interesting. That's funny.
So back to college football. We got your take on the Ducks. Miguel and I have a few $100. I came into the season pretty confident that they were going to win a national championship, which looking back on that, not sure why I thought that was a good decision, regardless of the talent they had coming in. But outside of the Ducks, I also agree with you. I think that Texas is a really, really strong team. But I kind of feel like Georgia might not be the team that might not be the Georgia of past. So kind of outside of Texas and Georgia and obviously Oregon, who obviously going to a 12-team playoff, is there any other teams, one or two teams that you think could kind of jump into the mix and kind of make some waves?
Did you say Alabama?
I didn't.
Okay. I like them a lot.
Isn't it weird? Before you continue, isn't it weird that we're thinking of Alabama as like a team right now that's flying under the radar?
Yeah, I think.
But that shouldn't be the case with a powerhouse team like that. But it's like, oh shit, Milrose doing well. Alabama's still Alabama.
And if Alabama beats Georgia, no one will be thinking they're flying under the radar.
I think Nebraska's a team flying under the radar. I mean, I know that.
Hell yeah, the Nebraska this year so far. Yeah,
really like Nebraska. Keep an eye on Utah. I love the way they play. They're a team
with or without their quarterback.
Zach Wilson's brother he looks good.
Wait, it is Cam Rising, right?
It is, but I mean,
he got injured.
He gets injured by a freaking Gatorade cooler.
Did he get injured again? Okay.
Well, yeah.
So now I think it's Isaac Wilson. It's Zach Wilson's younger brother.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, all I know is their defense is like one of the best in the country. So I think that but that changes things. So maybe not Utah. Keep an eye on Nebraska. Who else? Miami. I mean, I know
Cam Ward. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Miami. I like what I've seen from them. So yeah, those three teams, I would say. If Utah can get their quarterback back,
how do you feel about Ohio State with Chip Kelly?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I love Ohio State. I mean, I think they're another team. I'd put them right up there with Texas, right up there with Georgia. And in fairness to the Ducks, they looked really good last week. They looked pretty crappy the first 2 weeks. We all know they have the talent. They have the speed to be really good. It's going to be about how they play on the offensive and defensive line against the big boys. I think Ohio State might come in and put a beat down on them. I hope I'm wrong, but when is that game? That game's coming up on
October 12th.
Coming up, yeah, it's a couple weeks.
October 12th. Okay.
It's a revenge game. I mean, it's the first time they're facing them since losing in Columbus, right?
I know. That's why I'm a little bit.
It might be 90-3.
Probably not.
It's going to be a good game.
So this is something that, as I'm sure you've noticed over the years being on this podcast, Miguel is not too fond of the Ducks, and
I've noticed.
And
it's because of Slappy.
And we've had quite the back and forth about their ability to win this year, especially in the Big Ten. And I've been pretty firm on the stance, that they're going to be able to handle most of, if not all, their Big Ten opponents. Specifically, one that we've been hung up on is November 2nd,
Michigan.
Going into the Big House. Obviously, Michigan, total rebuild, new coach. Is that an environment that the Ducks can't overcome, or in your opinion, is that just
I think it's
another day of business?
I think it's another day of business. I think they're going to go in, and listen. This Oregon team is elite. Okay, make no mistake about it.
Write that down, Miguel.
Write that down. Yeah, you got your notepad, Miguel.
They are elite. They'll go in and handle Michigan. They'll handle everybody else. Ohio State's a different animal. I mean, we all know that. We could get killed by Ohio State and still make the playoffs very easily and have another crack at them, or hope someone else knocks them off. But you look at Texas, you look at Ohio State, and still, my opinion, Georgia. And I just think it's another level above where Oregon is. But we're coming. And if we start fine-tuning our game and we play really, really, improve each week, we'll be right there. We'll be able to compete in the playoffs. And I think the Natty, we have a shot to get there. So I'm excited about it.
So these guys, I baited these guys last week into taking a Colorado bet with me, by the way. So I have, on this podcast, and been not shy about my disdain for Deion Sanders, for Shedeur, for Colorado, and all of that. So now I have money on it to where I don't need to ever root for Colorado, right? So now I've got money invested into it. So when you look at where do you fall on, which side of the fence do you fall on with the Sanders family and then Colorado? And then we have the bet of 5.5 wins. I am the under 5.5 wins for Colorado this year.
It's not half.
Well, yeah, it's
5.
It is
5.5.
Yeah.
Right. So you have 6 and above. I have 5 and below. Right. And so where do you fall on the above?
I'm going to say under. I'm going to say under.
They did just pick up their second win against Colorado State,
but things get a lot harder, I would imagine. I think.
Kansas is a win. Cincinnati's a win. Baylor's a win.
Baylor, I don't know if they're a win.
I mean,
Arizona's a win.
Arizona was just ranked top 20.
And now out of the top 20.
I'm going to say under. I just don't believe in them. I think their defense is just god-awful. I don't like them. I don't like the flash. I don't like the pizzazz. I don't like the arrogance. Yes, Deion is amazing. Yes, he was a pretty good analyst on NFL Network. His kid has a big head. I actually root against them when they play. I like to see them lose. But I'm going to go under 5.5. That's a great number, though.
I can use this, and I.
Here's the difference, Walsh, just to give you a little bit of context. The reason that same answer is not accepted from Peter is because this is like a common theme. So the way he hides his shut up and dribble takes is by putting a bet on it, so he has an excuse to say, "Oh, I can't root for them," because it goes past Colorado. So that is a take that's common for normal people, but for him it strings to all 4 major sporting leagues and athletes. That he just has such a problem with people that are flashy.
Right, and so then
he's a media guy. He's say what I want you to say.
So then you take this past week and you get Shedeur Sanders, who refuses to shake the hand of the guy who talks about, they're just doing this for their Instagram followers and all of that.
Right,
which is
right.
no worse than anything that anyone has said that Deion Sanders says, this was personal for X, Y, Z, which was no different than what anyone said. And it just makes them look, they're bad winners and they're bad losers. They're just bad.
You got to keep that same energy, though. It's you didn't have a problem with the Colorado State QB saying that, but you have a problem with Shedeur Sanders. If you dish it, you have to be able to take it.
That's a good point.
You didn't have a problem with the other guy, but you have a problem with Sanders saying what he's saying. They both talk shit, but you only have a problem with one.
No, but the other side of things is that quarterback went and sought him out and said, "Good game," and he went to shake his hand. But he didn't shy away from that. And then after the post game, he said, "Okay, you can learn from it." But then Shedeur's "Okay, you can."
Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens when you get.
Sorry, Walsh. We'll get back to you.
No, it's fine.
That's what happens when you get called out, and then you realize you have nothing to say back, so you play victim.
You're bad winners. You're bad losers. You're running up the score with a minute to go.
I will say, Pete, if Shedeur Sanders did that same interview pregame before Colorado State and said the same things that Colorado State,
burn him at the stake.
you would burn him at the stake.
Yeah, because Colorado State.
Colorado State. No, you have nothing. You have nothing. You play favorites, and you will never see the other side. You're one-sided.
I see the other
You're
side.
one-sided.
I've chosen this one.
Walsh, your thoughts?
Thoughts?
Listen, you guys. This may not be popular amongst the majority in that room, but I'm gonna have to side with Pete on this.
All right, we're hanging up.
That's
Clip that. Clip that.
Walsh. That's all he needed. That'll last for like 2 years.
Yeah.
You have no idea how much
You're
that
welcome in
means.
the house anytime.
Right? Like, people are resisting him now because they're seeing the real Skip Bayless take. So when he finds somebody like you who sides with him, my God, 24 months of pure bliss.
In bold.
He will hold on to this shit.
That's what happens from the winner's circle here with the.
That's what happens with new people who are forced to be nice to you.
No, I do agree with him, and hopefully that gets me a half rack when I come to the studio. So
Oh, the beer will be flowing, no
Nice.
matter what.
I believe we are coming up close to the end of like the meeting, and I don't know if it's going to cut off. So
yeah, no, we're good, dude. This has been fantastic.
Yeah.
So I would just say, I'll probably post for the NFL. Probably post a tease in the next day or two, and I think you guys should all play it for fun. Just throw a monster tease out there for whatever your unit is, and let's see if we can win another one. So
Might be what gets me out of the rut.
Yeah.
we'd love to have you guys on
Need it.
board.
We appreciate you so much. This is always so much fun.
Yeah, man, we missed you. It's been a while.
Yeah, I love coming on, guys. So like seriously, any Monday or Tuesday or whenever you guys do this, I'd love to come back in a few weeks or a month and see how the bets have been going and do it again. Talk about the
Just
teams and where
follow
they are.
our voices and walk 10 feet.
Yeah.
We'll be here.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Walsh.
Thanks, Walsh.
All right.
Okay, guys. You have a good
See you,
one.
man.
Take care.
All right. Good night. Bye.
Yeah, don't forget to follow Wolf of Walsh Street. Instagram.
SDRT. SDRT. We'll put it in our promotion too. I feel like we all started jumping on the teasers and it stopped hitting, and then pretty sure everyone got off the teasers and it started hitting. I don't know if it's a good idea for us to get back on the train and ruin this guy's life.
Have I told you guys how
Yeah, you
much
actually
I
have.
love RJ James and the Wolf of Wall Street, STRT?
Yeah, we get it.
He agrees with me, and we're all winners here, so fight me.
It, like I can kind of envision you just like
Blowing him.
That's on him. It sounds like
praying to be surrounded by more people who agree with you, because the people that used
Yeah.
to have
Echo
now
chambers.
resisted.
Echo chambers. You need confirmation bias all the time. A few things that he said that I thought was interesting, just in terms of betting and how much injury plays a factor into things and what he will do, and which teams are going to come out ultimately once this, this is such a crazy few weeks at the start of the season as it relates to betting, and who shakes out as a team that you can rely on. But
I think once the dust settles, you'll see that more in week 4, week 5.
one of those teams you won't be betting on likely unless you're betting against them are the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young benched
He done.
for week 3. The Red Rocket. What is Andy Dalton's nickname?
He's still in the league.
He's gonna
the
be.
backup.
He is gonna be the starting quarterback outside.
And I don't think it's Red Rocket. I don't think Goodell would approve that.
It should be.
Yeah, a dog's boner.
Boner dogs.
A boner. Yeah. Bryce Young. What do you guys make of that? Of that decision? I mean, like,
I can't blame the organization for
what are you
making
gonna
that
do?
decision. I think as a
Keep 'em in.
professional team, you have a responsibility that even though emotionally you don't want to make those decisions, you have to. You're put in a position where you have to, because you have to make some sort of a change, have a change of scenery, just something, because you can't ride the ship as it's going down. But it doesn't take away from the fact that that's really shitty for Bryce Young. That's really shitty for a very talented guy to go to a place where quarterbacks go to die, and he's another number added to that.
Another tombstone.
Yeah.
yeah. It will likely go down, unfortunately for him, as just one of the worst trades in NFL history.
Yeah, with
And
all the Bears have gotten and continue, they have another pick from that trade.
whatever they get and continue to get is pretty wild.
That could easily be C.J. Stroud. Think about
Yeah,
that. Think about if Bryce Young
yeah.
was with Houston, C.J. Stroud was in Carolina. This could be him.
It hurts that much more because it sounds like the coaching staff in Josh McCown, who was your offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, and then you had Frank Reich, who was your head coach. It seemed like when they were talking with CJ at his pro day and all that, that they were super high on him. And then David Tepper, the owner, it sounds like came in and overruled them. I don't know if that's true. I remember seeing a number of clips talking about how they were trying to imagine CJ Stroud as their guy. But you kind of get into this position where the media, where the court of public opinion says it's got to be this guy. And then it's almost like, what other work do you have to do? You look at the stats and you see the things, and then you try and make sense to fit it in to pick that guy, regardless of it if it's right or not. And unfortunately for Bryce Young and his...
He's another victim.
He is, and I'm not trying to stir this up or anything like that, but we talked about last year, Bryce Young versus C.J. Stroud, the kind of like ideal stature for a quarterback, and talking about Bryce or C.J. Stroud in the context of being that like the prototypical quarterback and why the Panthers should take him. And there was a little bit of disagreement on this couch.
Well, sounds like the Panthers should have listened to us. Or at least
Us. Him.
What makes C.J. Stroud a prototypical quarterback?
he wins.
His height. He's taller
Yeah,
than
when
Bryce
you say
Young.
prototypical, it's like his physical stature.
Yeah, I mean he is much large. Bryce Young is definitely
He's
noticeably
wee.
small.
Yeah, it's quite...
Yeah,
quite
I don't.
wee.
I mean, I just don't buy it. I think we could easily be doing the flip conversation right now.
Sure.
Like Bryce Young could be
Hindsight
tearing
is
it up
a
in
very-
Houston,
yeah.
and C.J. Stroud's getting benched behind Andy Dalton.
Yeah, hindsight is a very powerful driver there. With Caleb Williams, and I am not, again, dancing on graves of Caleb Williams, although in the first couple of weeks he has made it quite easy. There is now a tracker going online. There was that whole thing where after he was drafted, he had apparently like texted the punter and was like, "Oh yeah, you're not going to be punting a lot." We all know that story.
No, he said it to his face on Hard Knocks.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not going to be punting a lot. And right now, someone has a tracker that has Bears' total offense versus the punter's total punting yards. And right now is beating the offense by about 200 yards. So we shall.
Damn, at least it's close.
So not a lot of pressure came his way on Sunday Night Football. And I think that we will get a better and better version of Caleb Williams. However, the first couple of weeks have shown probably why Matt Eberflus will find his way out the door early on this season, and why
He'll be the scapegoat before the rookie quarterback.
exactly why he will be the scapegoat before Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. I think Caleb Williams has not played great, but I still believe that he is going to continually show improvement. I was not high on Caleb Williams coming into this year. That's recorded on this podcast. I did not have a lot of faith or belief. But I do think from Hard Knocks in these first 2 weeks, there is potential there. And I think that he, was kind of regarded and, painted in a light during his college season, that he was kind of this flashy, all about me guy. I fell into that trap of believing that. But I think, and again, maybe I'm falling into the Hard Knocks trap now, but I've flipped my narrative on him where it's like, it seems like this guy wants to be here. He wants to win. He's willing to put in the effort. And I really do think that he's going to continue to grow and improve. And the Bears, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but I do think that they're going to end their season much better than where they've started.
Also, a lot of the attention and a lot of these conversations, I think we're all aware and we all know that the quarterback position in the NFL is so situational depending on where you end up that sometimes it doesn't matter how talented you are. Sometimes it doesn't matter that you're a Heisman winner. You end up in the wrong situation, you just go to die. And unfortunately, you don't get another chance, right? That happens all the time. But you look at the attention and just the hype coming in, all eyes are on Caleb Williams. So every little mistake that you make, people are blowing it up. If you do, it's almost like a lose-lose situation. Like if you do something good, you were supposed to. You're a Heisman winner. You just balled out at your last season at USC. So you're supposed to do the good things. You're not supposed to make any mistakes. You look at the 3 quarterback rookies that are playing right now. Jaden Daniels, he's pulled out a couple wins. Granted, it's the Giants and whatever, but he's pulled out a couple wins. Caleb Williams, the magnifying glass is on him. Bo Nix, no one's freaking out about Bo Nix. He's 0-2. But you see the difference is like, I'm not saying they have similar stats or they're making the same mistakes, but all attention's on Caleb.
Yeah.
Bo Nix is like...
It's a simple equation of expectations, times reality equals what we really think.
Right. But and I was trying to find the stat on it, is that people were looking up and down of rookie quarterbacks that start their first 2 games, and maybe it's situational stat finding, but what Caleb Williams has done personally in the first 2 weeks is historically bad. It is top 10 worst rookie quarterback performances through the first 2 weeks of anyone. And so hopefully that changes a little bit. Again, it might be cherry picking of some stats. But then you also, Walsh was talking about liking the Lions, liking the Packers. That's your division. And whether or not you are ready at this point to maybe steal a couple of those games, for those are the guys that you play a couple times a year. Those are 4 of your games. And could prove to be a little bit challenging there for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. I think we've all said it. I think we'll see. I think week 2, there's going to be some overreaction. But week 4, week 5, I think we'll see where it tracks. Which teams are were not the ones we saw in the first few weeks. Same with the players.
I would be so curious. We'll find out in a couple weeks where Caleb Williams will be at, not just with this class of quarterbacks, but against history and things of that nature. I want to turn the page to what happened on Thursday Night Football. I know it's already been kind of litigated and everything, but what happened with Tua Tagovailoa? He goes down, has another very serious concussion in which he demonstrates the fencing pose. Of all people that he hits is Damar Hamlin, and hits Damar Hamlin right in the chest. It was literally the worst case scenario for the NFL for that to happen. I'm curious if you guys, and reports have come out that he still plans on playing right after that. People are just telling the guy to retire, including guys like head coach Antonio Pierce, media pundits, the like. And what you think Tua should do now with $124 million guaranteed for injury, with what has happened to him with 3 very serious, very public concussions.
I don't have a problem with him continuing to play. I think he's young, but I think if he's going to continue to play, he needs to learn how to play from these 2 very serious things that he just went through. Because that injury, this most recent injury a few days ago, that was completely on him. That was 1,000% on him. Learn to fucking slide. He initiated that hit. He dove in for that hit. Like, that wasn't even a collision. Like, he sought after that fucking hit. Slide, dude.
And
this has happened to you before.
Even if you're going to take that hit, put your head up.
Yourself.
Like, he went head down, nose to the ground. Like, the football coaches will teach you when you're in peewee, nose up, face the hit. You know, you don't want to hit people with the crown of your head, especially if you're the ball carrier.
It might sound mean, but you know you're playing a violent sport. You know that you're not a second string quarterback. People are coming after you. You also know you're fragile. You're made of fucking glass. Take all of those into account and start playing like, I'm not saying play scared, but learn how to protect yourself. Learn how to slide. Just play smarter if you want your career to extend, because clearly the reason you're fighting this argument of retire is because you're young and you want to continue playing. So if you want to continue playing the sport that you love, be fucking smarter about it. You're not, you're not invincible. You're not just gonna hit people. Like, you're softer than most. I mean, Tom Brady's tougher than you body wise.
Yeah,
and that says a lot.
And that's the thing. I mean, you talk about the longevity of a quarterback, and obviously, like, certain things came out. You know, like, Brady had been hurt, but, like, not to this level, not to this degree. And, I mean, when you're thinking about, like, again, how high profile these concussions have been, how serious they've been, for me, you look at getting the $124 million, I think you won. I think you did it. You got
that's
that
guaranteed, right?
That's guaranteed money.
If I'm him, see ya.
He's got 2 kids under the age of 3. Like, I mean, there were obviously a lot of that discussion already. He got that next contract. He has $180 or even more dollars coming to him if he plays it out. But $124 million is guaranteed. You did it, dude. You fucking won. You did it. You won. I understand that these people are built differently, but think about what is important to you at the end of your life. And you think about all the people and all the things that are important, right? We hear that all the time where they go, you know, people are on their deathbed. They go, oh, I wish I would have worked more. I wish I would have
said no one ever.
Right, exactly. Said nobody ever. And to have the 124, like, you did it. You set your family up. You set your parents, your kids, your everything. You have generational
your
wealth
grandkids,
now.
your great grandkids.
And I know, again, that these people are not wired like me, but I see that and I just go, like, you won. You legitimately won. And I would hang it up.
And I think that I think that opinion is probably the most common opinion of the public, is that, like, hey, we've seen this happen, 3 times at this point. Lace them up, or hang them up and walk away. And I don't think anybody would blame him for doing that.
Zero. That's the thing, right? At this point, no one blames you for it.
But if you do come back and play, everybody is going to be like, oh, it's about to happen. And then when it does, and then you're even more seriously injured, the opinion of the public is going to be, told you so.
Right. At this juncture,
you're not going to have a lot of forgiveness.
Some of the sympathy will turn into blame.
Yes.
Yeah. At this point, you're 1,000% correct. 1,000% correct, where it just goes like, bro, like, how many times?
Yeah.
And I'm not even like, and I've thought about this a little bit coming into this episode, I go, at the very least, this guy's got to be like the champion for the Guardian cap. But like, that's not even enough.
Yeah.
Think about these people. You did it. You did this for your family. You did this for you won. Again, I keep on coming back to that. You won. You've got that injury guarantee that was kind of in flux with Brian Flores saying that you didn't have it. You get Mike McDaniel for that year. You succeed. You get your extension. And then they build in that $100 million+ for an injury guarantee. I'm sorry. I think that's
yeah. As much as I agree that it's not worth seriously risking you being a fucking vegetable, he might not look at it like he's won. Like to us, he's won.
Yeah.
He's not looking at 120, 160 million like he's won. Maybe to him winning means something. Meaning like
a Super Bowl.
I need to win a Super Bowl. I need to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I have Tyreek, I have Waddle and all that. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, that's so minuscule that you need to care about your life more. But again, I get either direction that he goes. But if you go the direction where you will lose the sympathy of people, you will lose the understanding of people by continuing to play, you better be fucking smart about it.
Yeah.
Because you might die next hit. Like next hit could be the end of you.
That's true. And maybe to your point, Miguel, maybe he feels like he owes Mike McDaniel more of him for helping him get that, right? Like without Mike McDaniel coming in and engineering this offense, without the trade of Tyreek Hill and all of that, right? Maybe he feels somewhere either implicitly, explicitly, or whatever, that he owes this to continue on.
Yeah. And maybe that's a conversation with the two of them, because nobody that really cares about you will say, yeah, trade your life so you could repay me. I don't think he would ever come.
And this is the business of football. This is the business of professional athletics. The moment Tua doesn't play up to snuff, Mike Daniels is going to kick you to the fucking curb so quick it'll make your head spin.
Well, it already does, unfortunately.
And
probably an ill-timed joke there.
I wasn't trying to make a joke.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
I was doing it was my fault. Yeah.
Oh, you're taking credit for the joke now?
Do you want it?
No, I'm good. But it's like,
what a weird skit.
yeah, we practiced that for hours.
Joke, yeah.
But no, it's like, dude, Mike McDaniel, you owe him nothing. He owes you nothing. This is business. And if you got a contract, you made the good business move of making sure you get this money, and you did it in a way to make sure that if this exact thing happens, you still get paid, then good on you.
Yeah, this is a human issue at this point. This is a human element at this point. And to continue on and to allow him to continue on feels like malpractice.
I think it's ultimately his decision, though.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like allowing him or not allowing him.
Someone needs to save him from himself. And it's interesting, and I'm not trying to, you talk about his family values and all of that, and maybe that works with him and against him, is that I really hope that he considers not doing this anymore. It's really, there will be somebody else. Somebody else will come in, and then you can find a way to repay the game in some sort of way. But when you're in this space and this has been your life or whatever, it's hard to think outside of that, right? We saw Jason Kelsey on the broadcast of Monday Night Football and talking about the struggles of not being able to be down there with his team when it mattered most. Like, that will stick with those guys forever. But the long-term effect of that will be, this was the best decision that I made at the time.
I think that's the beauty of professional sports and just sports in general, and the reason why this will go on for all eternity is the athletes and then the people that talk about the athletes. Because we're two completely different species.
Yeah, we're never going to get it.
We're never going to get it. They're never going to get us. Like the average Joes versus these professional athletes, the small percentage of people that play professional sports, we're never going to understand them. And they're never going to understand us. Their brain functions differently.
But at the same time, we can't do it without them, and they can't do it without us.
I think they can do it without
Are you
us.
sure?
Yeah, they might.
Yeah.
They might want to do it without us or anything like that.
I think they would prefer to do it without us,
Okay,
honestly.
fair enough.
They did sign the Dolphins signed Tyler Huntley as their
Yeah,
That's not a bad sign.
Utah Utes, great.
That guy went to the Pro Bowl. That's not a bad sign at all.
Not at all.
There you go. Skylar Thompson, their other guys.
Nobody knows where that guy's
Yeah,
from.
well, they got rid of Mike White, which was real unfortunate.
Sad
Who's Mike
day.
White these days?
Alabama?
No,
I don't know.
I don't know. But, okay, so we have, when we're looking kind of up and down from this past week, do we want to talk about a little bit of college football? I know we've kind of gone up and down with the NFL. I had within Carolina LSU, I said South Carolina was going to upset that game. LSU stole it with the help of the referees, but here you go. And let's see. It continues my losing curse because I also had Arizona thinking that Arizona's going to win this.
That was
past
just a
week,
bad
and that
take.
was a bad take by me. So.
I think the best game was Georgia, Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah.
That was giving Georgia a run for its money. Barely squeaked that out.
Yeah, and I don't want to play too much on recency bias, but I do think that Georgia is going to be again in that upper echelon of teams excuse me in the playoff, but I would not be surprised if they are not in that top 4
Really?
conference winner.
No, I think Kentucky was stronger than what people expected, even though they were unranked. That defense was pretty solid.
I really think that, Texas could very easily take that spot, especially with, obviously, we talked quite a bit about Quinn Ewers last week. He goes down with an injury, a little unsure of the timing on that. I know it's not going to be a terribly long time, but at least a couple weeks.
People will get nice and rocked up for Arch Manning for at least a little bit.
And he came in and played really, really well.
Right, UTSA, but yeah, I mean, you dominate 56-0 or something.
I think you could easily, even with a 12-team playoff, there is a clear separation in college football. I think the top 4 is decided. It's easy to see who the top 4. It's Georgia, it's Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama. That's the top 4. I'm not saying the top 4 in the playoffs. Those are the 4 best teams.
Okay.
I'm saying those 4 are up here. Everybody else is down here. Those 4 are clearly miles ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, and your perception of a Notre Dame or anything like that was affected by that.
Yeah, I think when you obviously underneath those 4, I'm looking at the Notre Dames of the world, USC. Sure, Oregon could be there, but you've seen the sample size of Georgia barely squeaking by to win against Kentucky. I don't think I would only move them off of that list if I see another game like that this season, which I fully do not expect to. I do not expect to see that at all. Notre Dame they've lost the game that they shouldn't have lost. And I see them being in those games where okay, they're not who we thought they were. Oregon has had 2 games against below average teams. And yeah, they beat the shit out of Oregon State, but they've had 2 games where I'm you play a powerhouse, you're dead. But the other ones, I've seen just a clear separation.
Talk about a very consequential game this upcoming weekend that has to do with the Oregon Ducks, which is this USC versus Michigan game. And what I mean by that is that if USC goes on to win that game, potentially knocks Michigan down to nearly outside of the top 25, depending on the outcome of the game, obviously. But then you have, if Michigan wins that game, that reinstills all of their confidence, their top 15, potentially like right outside the top 10, and like how that affects games later on. Again, like we're not trying to predict where things will be at the beginning of November. But to your point, when you talk about like where USC is, like this is as big of a game for them into how, for both sides, the national perception of both of those teams.
Yeah, and I would look less about like what it would do to the confidence of Michigan, but I would look at how it would look for Oregon, depending on the results of that game. If Michigan loses and they get knocked out of the top 25, but then they beat Oregon, that's a bad loss for Oregon.
Huge.
Terrible loss for
And
Oregon.
then there's the other end of it where it's if Michigan wins and then Oregon can beat them, that's huge for Oregon.
Yeah.
That's huge, unless Michigan starts losing. And they lose that status when it's time to decide for the playoffs. They're like, okay, you beat them when they were 11 or 17 or whatever, and now they're 500.
Yeah.
You know, so that like I feel like Michigan is an absolute game changer for Oregon. How Michigan ends up matters so much to the Ducks.
Yeah, I tend to agree with it because, like, you look at the Ohio State game and you look at where they will be at, assuming when they meet, which will be a top 10 matchup. Either one can lose, and depending on that outcome, if it's not terrible, we'll be able to come back from that game. Mm-hmm. But yes, this USC Michigan game happening in the middle of September feels like it will anchor how people feel about any one of these three teams, including Oregon, as we look at the end of the season. So, consequential games all around.
Obviously I would lean this way just because I like seeing Oregon trip. I don't cheer for them, but Oregon has had season after season where they trip on Arizona. They trip on Stanford.
Yeah.
They trip on Washington State. And first of all, they are fucking lucky to not be playing Penn State also in their schedule. That is a godsend for them. Yes, they have Ohio State coming to Autzen. They're playing Michigan in the Big House. But I see one trip game, and for a couple different reasons, Michigan State, coached by Jonathan Smith, who's beaten the Ducks
A couple times.
a couple times. And Michigan State's 3-0. They're not, they're kind of overachieving than how people expected them to. Them in Illinois. I think Illinois, number 24 in the country. I can see that being 2 trip games for Oregon. Mostly praying that it
I can
happens.
agree with you for Michigan State. Illinois, no.
I mean, to his point, like, there have been times during the year, and maybe you just, like, needed to get into the Big Ten where you just realized that you can't afford a trip game, right? Where literally every game is Super Bowl level to saying, hey, like, this may be a backwards way of thinking, but, like, if a competition wasn't good enough and then you underestimate your opponent and you lose to them knowing that you lost to an inferior opponent, is the line of thinking that happens in the SEC with the Georgians and the Alabamas and the LSUs and the like, where you just go, like, every one of these is consequential. And I don't know. Like, Duck fans are feeling good right now because they mollywopped Oregon State, which was absolutely depleted after the Pac-2 became a thing and Jonathan.
Here's what's interesting, too. Before they moved, and you're playing in the Pac-12, your coach, your coaching staff, you have the same, essentially the same schedule. You're going to play Washington. You're going to play the Cougs. You're going to play Arizona State, whatever.
Yeah. Cal.
And you play that psychological warfare, that game in your head, going, all right, we've tripped against Stanford. Like, this was a team responsible for us not making the national championship. Washington State, this was a team responsible for us not going to the Rose Bowl, whatever. So season after season, you can kind of play that. They sort of have a disadvantage joining the Big Ten. They don't have any history with Wisconsin. They don't have any history with Michigan State. Maybe, a one-off bowl game here and there. But they don't have season after season history. So you don't know where trip games are coming from, and it's almost like a disadvantage.
But you could also look at the other side of the coin on that.
Sure, but the other side of the coin is in the 6th ranked team in the country with something to lose. They have less to lose than Oregon. So it's not necessarily a trip game for unranked Wisconsin. They're more of a spoiler, which is an easier position to be in. When you're going into Madison and Wisconsin isn't ranked and Oregon is fighting for a national championship spot, they have way more to fucking lose. That's a trip game for them. That is a spoiler game for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is, in those circumstances that you're mentioning with Arizona State, Stanford, whatever, where they've tripped up, you could place a lot of blame on them overlooking that opponent, looking towards Rose Bowl, looking towards national championship. Whereas I think that they understand very well that they need to look at every team seriously in the Big Ten. They can't overlook anybody, and they have to play every team seriously. So
that's what you would hope their thinking, their mentality is as a Duck fan, though.
You have to assume that that's what it has to be.
That's what you would hope, like I said. But when you are playing unranked Purdue, but next week is Ohio State, you could be looking ahead at going back home,
absolutely,
playing against Chip Kelly in Ohio State.
Absolutely.
Well,
and thankfully, I think that there's enough time removed from the Chip Kelly era that the guys who are playing at Oregon right now don't necessarily understand the importance of Chip Kelly within Oregon.
I think it's more. I think the game is less about Chip Kelly, but more about the Buckeyes losing at home to Oregon, because that's not that far removed.
There's obviously a history. Ohio State beating Oregon in the national championship. There's a long amount of history with those two teams. There's no doubt that both of those teams are going to come into that game with some piss and vinegar, that's for sure.
Ducks with an early bye this year. They are off this week before they take on the UCLA Bruins down in LA.
Wow. How convenient that I plan to move that weekend.
Let's see. You got married on the Washington State weekend?
Colorado
weekend. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Beavs I believe, were playing Washington State that year. So
our bartender couldn't stop watching.
Yeah. No, it was luckily for you a closer game. But yes, a good time for you to move. This upcoming weekend. So when we look at the couple other games happening in college football from a top 25 perspective, you have Oklahoma State will be taking on, I just had it up. It's a top 20 matchup, Utah.
Ooh, that'll be good.
12, yeah.
That'll be good. I kind of love
Utah wins that.
I love Utah in the Big 12.
Both 3-0. It is a road game for Utah. They are a 2-point underdog, so they're getting back one effectively on the road.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with the game, but for some reason I feel like Utah in the Big 12 is just like a shoe-in fit.
Feels right.
It feels so right.
Yeah.
I feel like they match up well. They're going to be immediately competitive. Might win the conference.
Yeah.
Anyways,
does Utah feel better? Feel more
their defense is better. They look like a better team. The whole Cam Rising thing is getting annoying. Just fucking leave.
Yeah.
They're trying.
Yeah, he got another injury red shirt. Right?
Yeah, it's just like this dude is made of glass. They're trying to build the next Bo Nix where you play in college for 44 years. Just go, man. It's time for another Utah quarterback to actually be able to play consistently with this great defense, this great line, good running back, good receivers. I'm not even a Utah fan, and I'm sick of seeing him kind of let people down because you build this expectation. We have a veteran quarterback who knows the system, who's played in big games, just for you to get hurt in the second or third week.
Well, and I think with I'm almost positive it's Isaac Wilson, Zach Wilson's younger brother. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that with the play that he's going to, because he's not,
Isaac Wilson, you're correct.
he's not, some young, fresh buck out of nowhere. He knows what he's doing. I think he's going to be able to come in and continue their success without a lot of obstacles or hiccups. And I think they're going to do exactly what you're saying. I think that they're going to move on. I think we see Cam Rising transfer and play for a different team next year.
Like what? Something in Germany, maybe?
Just go to
where would
Canadian
you transfer
Football
to
League.
at this point.
Who? There's a lot of teams that would take a Cam Rising on a, what is it? Injury red shirt?
Yeah, I know. It's just like at what point? At what point?
There is so many teams that would take
if
him.
Cam McCormick can find his way into a top 10 team.
And don't bring
sure.
Bo Nix into that. He played the right amount of years.
Yeah.
He played
He has 14 grandkids, and now he's 0-2 with the Broncos with gray hair, and he's like, this is way too stressful.
His grandkids are
should have stayed at the retirement
Grandpappy,
home.
what happened?
Make sure to follow us at official IJMS. We will be we're gonna have our picks of the week as well. We're gonna go ahead and build ourselves a little parlay, maybe a teaser, something like that. Not necessarily. We'll figure out what it is. So at official IJMS on the Twitters, Instagrams, and Facebooks.
And don't forget to follow Wolf of Wall Street,
STRT.
STRT. He posts his monster teasers every week. He also has a podcast. Be sure to check them out after you have downloaded and watched our episode in full.
Indeed.
But yeah.
The Thursday night game, we have the battle of the ones and ones between the Patriots and the Jets. Patriots took the Seahawks down to the wire in week 2. That was an overtime game, I believe.
It was.
The Patriots fighting a little bit more on there, but the Jets getting 6.5 at home. Then you have your Browns hopefully being able to get a nice little, not bounce back, but maybe hopefully a dominant win.
A double bounce back.
A double bounce against the.
Or the Browns.
Giants.
Are they 2-0?
1-1.
1-1. They lost in that first week against the
Cowboys.
No. The Titans there's a lot of weird infighting that seems to be happening. Their new coach who's just going after Callahan, right? Who's going after Will Levis for making some boneheaded mistakes, which naturally he should, but not the best look to just like go after your quarterback as a new head coach. Optics. But then you have the Packers who are, I think the Packers are a good play there, right? If they're just a 3-point underdog on the road, and you have been doing some good things with, despite the loss of Jordan Love, I think that might be a good money play there.
I don't know. I don't know if I trust Malik Willis.
I'm not touching
even
that
after
guy.
a win last week.
Well, I am the winner of the podcast at this point. Then we have the Colts and Bears. I am all in on my Indianapolis Colts this upcoming week.
0-2, right?
The 0-2 Indianapolis Colts. I think that they are a better team than their record shows versus the Bears, who are worse than their record shows. The Colts a 2.5-point favorite, so the Bears getting back that half point. Then the Texans-Vikings. I'm curious to know if Walsh includes this into his teaser coming up.
I think this will be a good game.
Yeah, the Texans getting 3 points as a
I don't think
road
Jefferson
underdog.
will be in this game. That makes it less interesting. Because I don't think they have Jefferson or Hawkinson.
Really?
Or Addison.
Or Addison. I mean, there's nobody to watch with Minnesota.
Yeah.
And Aaron Jones. I think they have Ty Chandler.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones got hurt.
Really?
Yeah.
He might also be hurt. So
Ravens-Cowboys, I think, is going to be also a prove-it game. Because just like we talked with Walsh, I think the Ravens are much better than their record shows at this point. The Cowboys, you never know who you're going to get. So I'm very excited to watch that game.
But the Ravens go 0-3 in that game.
You think?
There's no chance that after the Cowboys got trampled, a team as unpredictable, but with that much talent, goes and loses the next game.
But couldn't you say the same thing about the Ravens?
I think the Cowboys are more talented.
Really?
Yeah, Cowboys' defense is better. I think Cowboys wins that straight up.
I mean, I don't care enough to bet on it.
I'll bet you, Peter. You want to bet? You've been winning. I'll take the Cowboys straight up.
You big bet winner.
These are two good teams.
You big bet winner.
There's no odds here. These are just two good teams.
20
$50.
$50.
See how I said the number as soon as you touch my hand? Let's really test your winnings.
I like 49ers Rams. I think that's going to be an interesting game. Rams obviously with a lot of injuries. Same with the 49ers though.
A road dog. I mean, like that's going to be a 49ers home game.
Yeah.
Regardless of being on the road. Lions travel to the Cardinals. It felt like the Cardinals, like once again, were kind of knocking on this doorstep here. Big game by Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe they put it together, but I think that
you glad you drafted him now?
A little bit better.
Who?
Yeah.
I feel a little bit better about Marvin Harrison Jr. this past week after a 30.
He was always going to do well.
30 spot.
What's the that's the Sunday night game?
Sunday night is Chiefs Falcons with Monday night being
Are
Jags,
Ravens
Bills.
Cowboys a primetime game?
No.
Who? No.
What is it, afternoon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chiefs Falcons Sunday night and then Jags Bills. I mean, Trevor Lawrence basically saying we suck right now. So you've got that to work with. Bills feeling good about themselves, and I think that they continue it up in western New York there.
Yeah, I think we got a good slate of games. I'm excited to see the dust kind of settle over these 2 weeks. Because I think after week 4, like I've always said, after week 4 is when you can say, okay, this is the team we're looking at.
Unless you don't, then you say, after week 5.
Yeah, if it doesn't work in week 4, then I'd go week 6.
Yeah, well, I hope I'm not burning all of my goodwill in these first couple of weeks.
You are.
Making moves, and so is Braxton this upcoming week.
Moving.
Keep me moving.
I'm excited.
Yeah, before you know it, you're the one on the screen since you live 4 hours away.
Once again, thank you to good old RJ James, Wolf of Wall Street. He did guarantee he was going to be right in here, this studio.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Let's get that guy sloshed.
Yeah.
Schmammered.
Sounds good.
Yeah, as sloshed as this hat, which is reading backwards. So when you look at it, does it say Cleveland? Like you look at it
sure
in
it's
the mirror?
upside down and backwards.
Oh my God, I just realized.
Are you sloshed?
Might be. It's Tuesday. It's Monday. Heyo.
All right. Clear eyes.
Can't lose.
Love you guys.